ExamPrep.School, Colorado Property Insurance Producer Exam, exam code INSCO-Prop 3. There are 4 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Colorado statutes, rules, and regulations common to life, A&H, property, and casualty. Colorado statutes, rules, and regulations common to property and casualty only. Colorado statutes, rules, and regulations pertinent to property insurance only. Insurance terms and related concepts. Policy provisions and contract law. Types of policies. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Under Section 1 of an HO3 homeowner's policy, the dwelling and other structures coverage is written on which perils basis? A. Named perils. B. Broad form perils. C. Open perils. D. Actual cash value perils. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that the HO3 form insures the dwelling and other structures on an open perils basis, meaning all causes of loss are covered except those specifically excluded in the policy. Reason A is not correct. Named perils coverage would limit protection to only those causes of loss explicitly listed, which applies to HO2 rather than HO3. Reason B is not correct. Broad form perils is another term for a named perils form, not the open perils approach of HO3. Reason D is not correct. Actual cash value describes a valuation method, not a perils coverage basis. Question 2. Compared with the HO3 form, the HO5 homeowner's policy expands coverage by insuring personal property on what perils basis? A. Named perils. B. Broad form perils. C. Replacement cost perils. D. Open perils. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is that the HO5 form provides personal property coverage on an open perils basis, offering broader protection than the named perils approach of HO3. Reason A is not correct. Named perils restricts coverage to listed causes of loss, which is not how HO5 treats personal property. Reason B is not correct. Broad form is another name for a specified named perils list, not the open perils approach. Reason C is not correct. Replacement cost refers to valuation, not the scope of perils covered. Question 3. The HO4 renter's policy form primarily provides coverage for which of the following? A. Personal property of the named insured. B. Other structures on the rental premises. C. Owner's dwelling building. D. Medical payments to residents. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that HO4 is designed to cover the tenant's personal property on a named perils basis, excluding coverage for the landlord's building and other structures. Reason B is not correct. Coverage for other structures belongs to an owner's policy such as HO3 or HO2, not HO4. Reason C is not correct. The renter's policy does not insure the building itself. That is the landlord's responsibility. Reason D is not correct. Medical payments coverage exists, but the form is primarily intended for personal property protection. Question 4. Under an HO6 condominium unit owner's policy coverage, I specifically insures which of the following? A. Insured's improvements, alterations, and additions to the unit. B. Detached private structures on the premises. C. Liability for bodily injury and property damage. D. Scheduled personal property items. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that coverage A of the H06 form applies to the unit owner's interior improvements, alterations, and additions for which the insured is responsible. Reason B is not correct. Other structures are not covered under H06 since the building structure is covered under the master policy. Reason C is not correct. Liability coverage is provided under Section 2, not coverage A. Reason D is not correct. Scheduled personal property requires an endorsement, not coverage A. Question 5. Which of the following perils is specifically covered under an H02 broad form homeowners policy? A. Weight of ice, snow, or sleet. B. Earth movement. C. Water backup from a sump pump. D. Power failure off the residence premises. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that the H02 broad form includes named peril coverage for the weight of ice, snow, or sleet, whereas the other listed events are excluded. Reason B is not correct. Earth movement is not a named peril under an H02 policy and is excluded. Reason C is not correct. Water backup is not covered unless an endorsement is added. Reason D is not correct. Power failure off premises is excluded under the standard form. Question 6. Under an H08 homeowners policy designed for older homes, dwelling losses are typically settled on what valuation basis? A. Actual cash value. B. Agreed value. C. Replacement cost. D. Market value. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that the H08 form settles dwelling losses on an actual cash value basis, reflecting depreciation and the unique characteristics of older homes. Reason B is not correct. Agreed value is not a standard valuation method for H08 policies. Reason C is not correct. Replacement cost does not account for depreciation and is not used under H08. Reason D is not correct. Market value is determined by the real estate market, not by the H08 settlement method. Question 7. A homeowner is purchasing an H03 policy for a dwelling built 5 years ago. To satisfy the insurer's coinsurance clause under coverage A, which method of establishing the dwelling limit at policy inception is most appropriate? A. Using the current market value of the home, including the land. B. Adding an agreed value endorsement specifying the dwelling amount. C. Obtaining a replacement cost estimate for the dwelling structure. D. Selecting the actual cash value of the house at inception. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is obtaining a replacement cost estimate because it ensures the coverage A limit aligns with the insurer's coinsurance requirement and avoids penalty for underinsurance. Reason A is not correct. Market value includes land and does not reflect the cost to rebuild the structure, so it won't satisfy the coinsurance clause. Reason B is not correct. Standard homeowners forms do not typically allow an agreed value endorsement for dwelling limits, making this option unavailable. Reason D is not correct. Actual cash value factors in depreciation and may lead to an underinsured dwelling limit, triggering a coinsurance penalty. Question 8. Under an H03 policy, which of the following detached structures on the insured's premises would be covered under coverage B? Other structures. A. A decorative perimeter fence surrounding the backyard. B. An attached 3-car garage sharing a common wall. C. A detached woodworking shop not used for business purposes. D. Landscaping rocks and garden beds. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is a detached woodworking shop, not used for business because coverage B extends to structures separate from the dwelling and not used for business. Reason A is not correct. A perimeter fence is considered a land improvement and is excluded from coverage B. Reason B is not correct. An attached garage is part of the dwelling and falls under coverage A, not coverage B. Reason D is not correct. Landscaping features like rocks and garden beds are not structures and are excluded from coverage B. Question 9. A policyholder's HO. 3 personal jewelry collection is stolen in a burglary. Under coverage C special limits, what is the maximum the insurer will pay for theft of all jewelry losses combined? A. Up to $2,000 for jewelry stolen outside the residence. B. Up to $500 for each piece of jewelry. C. Up to $1,500 in total for jewelry theft. D. Up to $1,000 for any jewelry item. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is up to $1,500 total, since the standard HO policy sets a special limit of $1,500 for all jewelry stolen, regardless of the number of pieces. Reason A is not correct. The HO form does not raise the jewelry limit to $2,000 for off-premises theft. Reason B is not correct. There is no per-piece limit of $500 under coverage C. The special limit applies to all jewelry combined. Reason D is not correct. A $1,000 limit for individual items is not the standard special limit for jewelry on an HO policy. Question 10. A severe windstorm renders an insured's home uninhabitable, and the county issues a mandatory evacuation order for the area. Which coverage D loss of use trigger reimburses the insured's additional living expenses in this situation? A. Additional living expense due to direct loss to the insured's dwelling. B. Fair rental value for loss of rental income. C. Civil authority prohibiting use of the premises. D. Cost of property removal to a safe location. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is the civil authority trigger, because coverage D extends additional living expense reimbursement when an order prohibits use of the insured premises due to a covered peril. Reason A is not correct. Additional living expense requires direct damage to the insured's own property causing uninhabitability, not an evacuation order. Reason B is not correct. Fair rental value covers lost rental income, not the insured's personal living expenses. Reason D is not correct. Property removal coverage is optional coverage for relocating personal property, not living expenses. Question 11. Which of the following losses would be covered under the dwelling basic DP1 form without adding any endorsement? A. Collapse of a roof section due to hidden structural decay. B. Internal explosion of a steam boiler within the dwelling. And C. Damage caused by rodents chewing structural wiring. D. IMAPT damage from objects falling off a low-flying aircraft. The correct answer is B. The internal explosion of a steam boiler is one of the named perils automatically covered under the DP1 basic form, whereas collapse due to concealed decay, animal damage, and falling object losses require broader coverage. Reason A is not correct. Collapse from hidden decay is excluded under the basic form and only covered under broader or special forms. Reason C is not correct. Rodent or vermin damage is not a named peril under DP1 and requires broader form coverage. Reason D is not correct. Falling object losses are not covered by DP1 and require DP2 or DP3 coverage. Question 12. Which of these perils is specifically added by the dwelling broad, DP2, form that is not available under the basic DP1 form? A. Flood damage from surface water accumulation. B. Weight of ice, snow, or sleet on the structure. C. Volcanic eruption and lava flow damage. D. Mechanical breakdown of built-in appliances. The correct answer is B. The weight of ice, snow, or sleet is one of the additional named perils introduced by the DP2 broad form, while the basic form covers only fire, lightning, and internal explosion. Reason A is not correct. Flood damage is excluded under both DP1 and DP2 and requires separate flood insurance. Reason C is not correct. Volcanic eruption is not a named peril under DP2 and would fall under open perils coverage if at all. Reason D is not correct. Mechanical breakdown of appliances is not covered under DP2 and requires a special equipment breakdown endorsement. Question 13. Which of the following perils would be covered under the dwelling special DP3 form, but is not specifically named in the broad DP2 form? A. Collision damage from an aircraft striking the dwelling. B. Fire damage originating in the kitchen range. C. Damage caused by the weight of sleet accumulation. D. Water discharge from a ruptured plumbing line. The correct answer is A. Unexpected collision by an aircraft is an open peril covered under DP3 but is not among the named perils in DP2. Fire, weight of sleet, and plumbing discharge are all named in earlier forms. Reason B is not correct. Fire damage is already covered under all dwelling forms, including DP1 and DP2. Reason C is not correct. Weight of sleet is a named peril in DP2 broad form. Reason D is not correct. Accidental water discharge from plumbing is included in DP2. Question 14. A dwelling covered by a DP2 policy has been vacant for 70 days when vandals break in, shatter windows, and start a fire that causes structural damage. Under the vacancy limitation, which loss would be covered? A. Vandalism damage to the windows. B. Theft of interior furnishings. C. Glass breakage caused by waterline leakage. D. Fire damage to structural components. The correct answer is D. The vacancy limitation in a DP2 excludes losses from vandalism, theft, glass breakage, and water damage after 60 days of vacancy, but fire damage remains covered. Reason A is not correct. Vandalism is specifically excluded after the dwelling has been vacant more than 60 days. Reason B is not correct. Theft is excluded by the vacancy limitation once the dwelling is vacant beyond the specified period. Reason C is not correct. Glass breakage from waterline leakage is excluded under the vacancy limitation after 60 days. Question 15. An owner rents out a dwelling under a DP3 policy. A covered fire renders the unit untenantable for 4 weeks. Which benefit will the fair rental value coverage provide? A. Loss of rental income for the insured during repairs. B. Cost to repair and rebuild the dwelling. C. Relocation expenses incurred by the displaced tenant. D. Replacement cost of detached structures on the premises. The correct answer is A. Fair rental value coverage reimburses the insured for lost rental income and necessary continuing expenses when the dwelling becomes untenantable covered by a peril. Reason B is not correct. Property repairs and rebuilding are covered under the dwelling coverage, not fair rental value. Reason C is not correct. Tenant relocation expenses are not included in fair rental value. Those would be additional living expense if covered. Reason D is not correct. Replacement cost of other structures is not part of fair rental value coverage. Question 16. A DP3 policyholder faces a lawsuit after a visitor slips on icy steps and is injured. Under the standard DP form, which statement is true about personal liability coverage? A. Coverage for bodily injury liability is available only by adding a liability endorsement. B. Medical payments to visitors are automatically included up to policy limits. C. Guest injury claims are paid under the property damage section. D. Third-party liability is covered for fire damage only. The correct answer is A. The standard DP form does not include personal liability or medical payments. Those coverages must be added by endorsement. Reason B is not correct. Medical payments are not included automatically in a standard DP policy. They require an endorsement. Reason C is not correct. Guest injury is not covered under property damage. It is excluded unless endorsement is added. Reason D is not correct. Liability coverage for third-party injury is not included at all under the standard DP form. Question 17. Under the commercial property building coverage form, which of the following is included as part of the covered building? A. Leased office furniture used for administrative work. B. Completed additions and permanently installed fixtures. C. Business personal property located within 100 feet of premises. D. Property of others held by the insured but not installed. The correct answer is B. Completed additions and permanently installed fixtures are automatically included in the definition of the building under this form, whereas the other items fall under separate coverage categories or are excluded. Reason A is not correct. Leased office furniture is classified as business personal property rather than part of the building. Reason C is not correct. Business personal property within 100 feet is covered by an extension of business personal property, not by the building limit. Reason D is not correct. Property of others is excluded from building coverage unless the insured has an insurable interest or it is specifically scheduled. Question 18. Under the commercial property business. Personal property coverage, which of the following is included when the insured has a contractual obligation to provide coverage? A. Property of others held for sale. B. Signs permanently affixed outside the premises. C. Fences surrounding the insured location. D. Leased property the insured must insure by contract. The correct answer is D. Leased property that the insured is contractually required to insure is included under the business personal property section as part of contractual liability coverage. Reason A is not correct. Property of others held for sale is excluded unless separately scheduled under a different form. Reason B is not correct. Exterior signs in a fixed location are treated as building property, not business personal property. Reason C is not correct. Fences are considered outdoor property and covered under a different extension, not under business personal property. Question 19. Which of the following perils is not covered under the causes of loss basic form unless added by endorsement? A. Volcanic action. B. Vandalism. C. Smoke damage. D. Sprinkler leakage. The correct answer is B. Vandalism is not one of the named perils in the basic form and must be added by endorsement for coverage. Reason A is not correct. Volcanic action is included among the named basic form perils. Reason C is not correct. Smoke damage is a named peril covered under the basic form. Reason D is not correct. Sprinkler leakage is automatically covered under the basic form perils. Question 20. Which of the following perils is covered by the causes of loss broad form but not by the causes of loss basic form? A. Collapse of a roof structure caused by the weight of accumulated snow or ice. B. Lightning strikes to the covered property. C. Volcanic action including ash, lava flow, and eruption shock waves. D. Physical damage caused by aircraft or other aerial vehicles. The correct answer is A. Collapse due to accumulated snow or ice is a named peril in the broad form but is excluded from the basic form's list of covered perils. Reason B is not correct. Lightning is included as a basic form peril. Reason C is not correct. Volcanic action is one of the perils covered under the basic form. Reason D is not correct. Damage from aircraft is covered under the basic form perils. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below, we read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.